We've been to the short tracks, we've been to the intermediates, and it's time for a return to the super speedways here on the Friday Night Lights series as we take our first trip to Talladega Super Speedway, probably the biggest and scariest of them all on the championship. But it's always quite a thrill ride when these cars end up here, and you never quite know how it's going to end until the very end. Howie Burrows alongside Ron Mons here, Kirk Mills having his last race on the track of the season. Ron, you've probably had to cover a lot of Talladega in your life, so there's a lot that you're going to be repeating, I think, but this track sort of needs no introduction very often.
Yeah, no, Talladega, it goes without saying that this track is a brutal one for drivers and broadcasters alike. I don't think there's really any other track that can pummel our vocal cords nearly as much as Talladega, and considering this is the first time that these drivers here in the Friday Night Lights O'Reilly series have hit the track for a super speedway since Atlanta all the way back on February the 28th. Been a very long time since these drivers were running on a super speedway or anything really close to it for that matter. So the drivers bringing up the speed, bringing up the tension, and trying to shake the rust off for the super speedways, as we have another drought following this one, but at the moment these drivers have to kick on the hyperjets.
Lucas Heitzmer took the win last time around in Kansas. It certainly has opened up the championship a fair bit. Starting next week, these results will start representing the drop weeks. This is the last time that these will be drop less. Joseph McQuarter barely ahead. It's very tight between him, Hixenbaugh, and Benefiel. That top three, though, seems pretty much locked in. The rest, it's a very open game, and obviously on that cut line, lots to play for many. Tanner Marty and Eric Wineland going to be the ones to count. I believe that they've given us a graphic that counts him twice. The 77, I think that's Seth Falty. That would be on the other side of that cut line. Well, we're going to try and make it around Talladega in one piece, all happy, which is rarely often how it totally goes. 113 laps though, with 25 length stages, and maybe the hope for free wide action and green flag pit stops in that final stage. Only 4 tyre sets available on a 17x incident limit, higher than usual. We're going to start rolling right into the grid here because everyone's got their times, and I believe every single driver has made the starting road this time around, so lots to play for many of these drivers. And a big grid here. Daniel Wiles actually starts out on pole, and look at that, Jacob Simpson so close that his final digit gets truncated at the very end. And a Benefiel just 0.02 off in P3 ahead of Bryce Reiner, with Andrew Dyson returning to the field. He's the last one in the thousandths in P5 next to Dustin Hall in P6. Devin Medeiros lines up 7th next to Bryson Hixenbaugh. He starts 8th. And Seth Falty in the 77 is next to Dave Heitzmer in the 10.
Then looking outside your top 10, Jonathan Delaney going to start this race in 11th next to Joseph McQuarter in the 73 in 12th. Row number 7, we'll see Tanner Marty start next to Cliff Mullins. Those drivers looking to have a good night here. Then right behind them, it's Daniel Llewellyn, always quick on these super speedways, going to start this race in 15th next to Bill Hull. Great qualifying performance from the driver of the 76 car in P16. Blake Kluot, one of the Dash for Cash drivers here tonight. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We'll be starting next to Mason Lowry, running out row number 9, and completing your top 20 and row number 10 will be Payson Lindsay next to Jared Grodzicki.
We have a full field of 41 here out on the track here today, so it's certainly going to be busy. It's Drew Pohl on the halfway mark next to Tim Phillips, and then Ryan Von Henschel next to Eric Wineland. Further back, Lucas Heitzmer, quite far back in the field after his win last time. He starts 25th next to Michael Deach in the Talladega Nights car, of course. Casey Graves in the 27, in P27 is next to Noah Woods in P28, and the 30 car of William Owens lines up next to Tyler W. Hunter.
Then looking through the rest of the pack, starting this race in 31st is Michael Mesnar next to Brendan Hastings in 32nd place. Right behind them will be Hunter Truex starting in 33rd next to Aiden Amaro in 34th place. 35th will be Wesley Napier. 36th will be Cody Bird in the number 15 Sherman Williams car. Jesse Winslow from Canada will be in 37th next to Brendan Hunsinger in 38th place. Kyle Aim and Steve Benjamin will round out your top 40. And one more driver left to go through here tonight. It's Timothy Cook Jr. starting this race in 41st alongside Kirk Mills. It's actually 42 drivers, all black there, the number 69 car. Nice.
Managed to make it without setting a qualifying time. 111 laps on the board. Doesn't sound like very much, but Talladega is a very, very long track indeed. And hopefully we get to run a lot this one under green, because we know how long those pace laps last around here. We're running just a few right now, and they sure do like to take their time. Obviously, key to success here, being patient, Ron.
Yeah, that's definitely the key. You cannot go through a race at Talladega just by, like snorting some Adderall up off the dash. If you do that, it'll be exciting from our perspective here in the booth, but you probably will not win some friends with the people that you're starting around. But, usually our colleague Kirk does this, so we'll pass the mic off to him to get this race up at Talladega up and rolling.
The restart done. Let's go racing, boys!
Pretty clean and uneventful in the start, other than the one driver choosing to duck out of line near the back. I believe that's Payson Lindsay, who's decided to drop to the back at the very start of this race, get out of line on the back stretch. Sometimes it's best to just stay out of trouble. That's what some reckon around here. Jacob Simpson leads the top row, which has a good push. Better than usual around here. Typically, you often don't see that top line in iRacing really develop terribly well for a long time, but Jacob Simpson, Bryce Reiner, Dustin Hall, and I believe that's Daniel Wiles on the top now. It's Dave Oitzman behind. Bryson Hickson bar there too, all helping push that top lane quite far. 1 minute laps around here, so drivers mostly just want to stay in their head and hopefully try and save some fuel as well to get ahead of the field. Stay alive and in one piece. These cars are fragile here, of course. But I don't think we're going to see too much in the way of dramatic movements right here, right now.
Yeah, no, everybody keeping it level-headed right now. There's no point of just throwing caution to the wind on lap 2 of our Super Speedway race. Again, not everything that will make it the most exciting race for us as broadcasters will be the best to try and make it through to the end. We would love to see some drivers throw bare-knuckle fists each other's way. That just would not be the good call. One little storyline that I do want to bring up, though, at this point of the show, how we didn't talk about this too much heading off into the pre-race show, but once again, another Dash for Cash race here this season. We've already had 2, those being won by Joseph McWhorter and Adam Benefield. Of course, these drivers hunting for a $100 bonus at the end of these races if they can be the best finisher of the Dash for Cash competitors. Here in this race, it's already your 2 Dash for Cash winners of Joseph McWhorter and Adam Benefield, along with Blake Kluot in the number 14 and Bryce Reiner, who's really come to form as of recent here in the series, currently running in 3rd, right up there with your leaders and right behind your leader, in fact, of Jacob Simpson.
Still no real movement. Watching how well the driver's keeping lines further back, the answer is pretty well. But inevitably, of course, that top lane eventually runs out of drivers. It was the longer line for a while, but now we've already had a few droppers. Wesley Napier's the first car off the back of this line. It's very easy to just lose the draft if you take just a line a little bit too wrong. Thankfully, you're guaranteed yellows, of course, in this race, so it's not a total disaster early to lose the draft. Up front, Bryce Rainier is going to try taking the bottom now. He wants to lead a lap and lead a row. The classic piece of trivia everybody likes to trot out here at Talladega, that the start-finish line is very far down that tri-oval, remains relevant for drag races to the end. Drivers have been informed that there will be no passing under the yellow under any circumstances. This league's allowed it on the last lap at Daytona, but not here.
So passing under yellow, that's a double yellow line that you're referring to, correct?
Yeah.
May God have mercy on our souls. Getting into the early stages of this race, Jacob Simpson's still your top runner. Dustin Hall, though, driver really looking to make up some moves there. Now the second car on that top side, which, as you said a few moments ago, Howie, one that you don't usually expect to get any form of momentum, especially at this stage of these races. Usually just drivers migrating right towards the bottom. That top side, though, in these early stages of a plate race here on iRacing, kind of like myself, just a bit slow.
Obviously, this track iconic for being able to fit 3, but no one's making that shot early on. We're keeping it down to 2. It's better than just running single on the bottom, I'll say. Now, there's our first chance at the top, though. It's the one of Dustin Hall, followed by Hixenbar. Bit of coordination between the two. They've got momentum. That 22 in the middle, slowing down. Nobody quite with them, though. One or two sort of considered it. I think that might be further back. Wineland looking to try and join. Make it one more now as Dustin Hall moves down to the middle. Hixenbar leads. It's a 73 that chooses to join him.
Yeah, so Joseph McWhorter deciding to hitch a ride there with Bryson Hixenbar in that number 63 effort. I was really worried there. I mean, I'm still not feeling confident about that far top side. I just don't really have the strength in numbers to be able to make something work, but I was worried that they were going to get completely hung out to dry. They haven't been totally hung out to dry, but it's looking good. It's looking good for them to get hung out to dry. I think right now the noose is being tied, I think, is the other way that I can sum it up. And it's had a knock-on effect of the top side, which is now pretty much the only lane left outside of the bomb, because you can see 2 cars still up there. As Bryson Hixenbar, he hasn't given up yet. So I commend his sense of bravery. I'm not sure if that's bravery or just pure stubbornness, but he's got to start to drop down like an anvil push out of a helicopter as these drivers start to get a little bit more frenetic in terms of the lines. They're not remaining in completely, just unique and separate columns. They're a little bit wiggly. I think it's the way that we can sum it up. Just a little bit wiggly. It's like Jell-O that hasn't been fully set yet.
The aggression, though, still relatively low. Stages at 25 and 50. So they'll be relatively short, and there'll obviously, as ever, be no-stop runs. But I've been baited a few times into a false sense of security by a Talladega race that starts clean. Doesn't always end that way once people start getting the gloves off. Andrew Dyson has dropped a couple but remained fairly similar in place. Dave Hoytsman and Cliff Mullins have climbed them from 10th and 14th to where they are now. One of our biggest droppers, it is Bryson. He's down to 33rd. He could have been a deliberate play, actually, to drop down all the way to the back when he realized no one was joining him. I doubt that Bryson would just choose to give up that much pace unless he was playing the game, and that game might just be hanging with the pack, save some more fuel, play it a long run. It only really matters where you are at the end of the race for him.
Yeah, no, really at this point, just settle back, relax, be at the back of the pack, and wait for the chaos to break out in front. Yeah, I'm going to rehash this from last time we were running at, well, not the last time that we were running at Super Speedway. It's the opening race of the season at Daytona. If you remember, Howie, we had a driver blow their engine up at the far north end of the field. Now, I'm not saying we're going to have that go down here, but I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. We may have that take place between now and the checkered flag, and even if it isn't that, just any sort of chaos breaking out up the front. This is the widest super speedway by far, but when you're going at top speed, the room can run out very quickly.
Indeed, I do feel like we're going to have there's going to be a lot of talking points about the intensity later on in the race. One more dropping below the line to the back there. I think people just don't want to be involved in trouble or be close to it. He's dropped back close to Hoytsman near the back. This is the back of our actual lead pack here. It was that 0-1 of Casey Graves that dropped. There are more drivers on the field, though. Steve Benjamin leads a 2-car train with Timothy Cook Jr. In 38th and 39th, Brandon Hunsinger and Kirk Mills run off the back. Now, there is such a thing as running off the back. You obviously don't want to run that far off the back. Only one driver's going to get their lap back under the stage caution. And
there's a...
Go for it.
Sorry. I was just going to budge in and say that there's definitely a marked difference between backing away from the psychopath with a knife at the Grand Canyon versus backing up so far that you end up falling in.
Especially, I mean, with only 2 cars in the train near the back, you're not going to get that draft advantage in order to really be able to push up. And you are going to lose so much time that over the course of a few laps, those drivers do get back up to you badly. One more on the top there. He's going to be dropping back a fair few places. But if you try to make that top side even work, now the bottom is well and truly in pace. Led all the way up right and Bennefield in the 83. It's then Dustin Hall on the outside lane that begins that train.
So once again, the bottom looking to come into full force. Drivers up at the top, though, just a teeny tiny bit broken up. There's small little gaps that have just separated that field ever so slightly. It's not enough for that top side to completely die out, but it's just kind of stalling them out momentum-wise, just not able to make anything work. And then you have drivers kind of choose to play scab and jump away from it. That's Bill Hull, the 76 car. Wonder if that was fully intentional, not even trying to make a topside work, just saying, you know what? Not really feeling too comfortable about this. Either his engine's overheating, whatever the deal may be. Sometimes it is quite nice to be at the back of the class, still be able to hear what the teacher is saying, but not be exactly up at the front. And plus, you can get away with a lot more stuff there farther behind than you can up the front. I mean, I would rather experiment with how hard I can push a competitor when I'm just single file all by my lonesome than the middle of 3 wide racing. There's a lot less risk involved in that. It's still risky, just the consequences are less severe.
That's a bit of free ride around McQuarter. Now Bill Hull and Noah Woods are sticking to that top line. It's getting very unorganized back here, and we might even be able to make it 4. I wonder if some of these drivers are actually just struggling to make it back into their lane. Some just trying to dart to the bottom as soon as possible. If you do this inefficiently, you're just going to side draft your whole group off the back of the train, and I fear that's what's happening. Tyler Hunter is sort of the last car on the bottom before this split up ahead. This is starting to get messy. That's Hull on the top lane. He drops again. Further and further and further back in time. Up front, I mean, we're still seeing one more on the top, but I reckon McQuarter's trying to get to the back here because he's keeping his distance. He's not running close to the next car at all. And you can just see what it's like punching against the air. Now Hickson Bar and the likes are going to try and join this line. But it's going to be very, very difficult here in order to make up too much.
Yeah, no, they're pretty much having to try and run through a wall at full speed, and it clearly is not working. That 73 car, it's a quick machine. We know that Joseph McWhorter has been one of the quickest drivers throughout this campaign. Hey, that's the reason why he's currently holding on to the championship points lead. You got to be quick to do that. However, trying to punch the hole in the air here at Talladega makes it seem like that number 73 car is powered with milk. Now, it clearly isn't. I think that would be exuberantly expensive. I'm not sure if iRacing has coded it in yet. I'll know. Stay tuned for the Season 3 update. But that is definitely not what the deal is. It is just trying to get through that air and keep the momentum rolling once you lose out on the draft, voluntarily or otherwise. That's the reason why every single driver so far to try and make that third lane work, it just has not gone well. I think it's a double-edged sword here at Talladega in terms of trying to make a third lane work, because realistically, you have the space, you have the availability, but because everybody has enough time to kind of take it easy, relax, and not just be packed in like sardines and stick it 3 wide, it leads to the opportunity to actually go 3 wide really never present itself. The momentum's either going to run a certain way where it's pretty much impossible to break through that air, or because of that top side kind of running a bit by themselves, there just isn't the opportunity with a bit of side draft to pull alongside. It's just, you can do it here, but in terms of finding the opportunity to, super tough.
Over halfway through the stage now. Still bottom, very dominant. One pull over into the top. That's Devin Medeiros in the 20. Is now going to try leading that top lane, but it's been shrinking. That lane's been shrinking and shrinking. Dave Hoitzma, very squirrely. A bad bump from behind. Keeps it together. Don't want a field killer this early. These cars are more fragile than most. More dropping off the back of this train, though. You can see they go 3 wide around Hoitzma, and then behind there, more and more and more are dropping off the back. Even Hickson bars off the back.
And Hickson we saw try and make something work there, and it just did not. You know, one name that I have not seen us talk about at all throughout this, I'm not even sure if he's here. Do we not have Adam Benefiel here tonight?
Benefield's in 4th. I promise he's right there, in the correct paint this time. But yeah,
you know what? That right there, ladies and gentlemen,
since the start. So
yeah, that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when your eyes do not work as eyes. I was like, we haven't talked about him at all throughout this. It turns out he's just hiding there in plain sight.
I think it's quite easy to blend into this field like a chameleon, especially when your car is coloured like the asphalt on the surface. That might not help you too much.
Yeah, no, in terms of standing out there, I think there's one thing that is lost in the racing world is the difference between standing out versus sticking out. That car does not really stand out, doesn't stick out either. Is there any car out there on the racetrack, Howie, that you think sticks out a bit like a sore thumb? Is there one that stands out to you?
I think it's always Dyson's to me. It's definitely, it's a deliberate Days of Thunder callback, but I mean, you get the highlighter colours on there. That one just, it always certainly stands out. I've been on the record saying my favourite is Bryce Reiner's, with sort of the red that becomes pink in the night. That's all. I've been on the record with that one, and I'll say it again. But you can definitely see where Andrew Dyson is in the field at any given time.
So, you know, on the subject of the highlighter colors of that, you know, Days of Thunder tribute scheme from Andrew Dyson, there was a brief period of time in which, like, fluorescent colors were the only colors found in my wardrobe. This is back when I was, like, in, you know, late elementary school through into, like, in my early high school days. There's a photo of me from 2020 in a bright orange shirt and bright orange shorts, and the clothes were so bright that it messed with the lighting on the camera and pretty much made me look like a gray straight out of Area 51. I'll have to send that to you once we're done with this broadcast, Howie, because it is prime blackmail material. I look like a subhuman alien species. It was not a good, my skin looked almost blue. Like a Sharpie bath.
These are the sorts of stories you've got to tell to get yourself through a slow stage at Talladega. So I respect it.
See, these are just the stories that I share generally. I mean, Howie, we've done enough of these shows together. One of the shows that we did not too long ago when we were still covering the FF1600s here, I remember breaking down throughout that show talking about, you know, animal taxidermists. So it's if it's a show with me, chances are I'll be able to push it off the rails right away.
There is always a Ronism every time. It's what I come to count on. McQuarter's been, I swear, stuck to the top for longer than many others. He's finally sort of dipped down to the upper lane, but I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the move again. Running out of laps in this stage now. It's looking pretty clean and stable to the end. Do wonder if we'll see any dramatic moves to take stage points, but there aren't too many on the line. I think everybody definitely wants their car to be alive. I've got to say, it's got to be inconvenient, I think, for Jacob Simpson, though. He's led essentially his entire stage, so he's going to have trouble on fuel, and I bet he will be dropping further back in the train come the pit stops, because he's not had any chance of saving the draft. He's been leading this, and no one's been taking it from him at all.
Yeah, no, Jacob Simpson, he's been able to rest comfortably up at the front. However, do gotta consider exactly how the fuel is in that race machine. It's got to be feeling quite bad. I would go out on a limb and say that he is getting some desperately horrendous fuel mileage. But even outside of that, in terms of driver comfort, I think Simpson is feeling quite pleased with himself. We think back to the last time that we ran at a plate race, here in the Friday Night Lights series. That was all the way back in February, all the way back at Atlanta. And who won that race? It was Jacob Simpson, one of the only wins so far in this campaign. Now, am I saying that could happen again here tonight? Maybe. I'm not a betting man. If I were a betting man, I probably wouldn't even have socks.
And you wouldn't want to bet on Talladega Super Speedway anyway, would you? I mean, this is the sort of race where on that last lap, anything can truly happen. Our first shot of free wide here. Jonathan Delaney now leads that. But that's going nowhere at all. I'm curious as to whether this middle lane's going to get any power in it, or whether it will remain pretty much this way. And what Bryce Reiner's going to do, along with Daniel Wiles and Betterfield, they've pretty much been, running this bottom with almost no drama whatsoever. Someone's going to try and make the move at some point.
Yeah, somebody will have to try and pounce sooner rather than later. Now, whether that comes in the stint, that remains to be determined. Can see another gaggle of cars attempting to make it 3 lanes. As that's Joseph McWhorter trying to make it work. He hasn't given up on that top side yet, but it just hasn't really worked out at all yet. Well, I'll have to see if he can do it a little bit later on, but I talked about sort of the troubles of making it 3 wide here at Talladega. You can make it work under very specific, very unique, and sometimes very rare circumstances. Otherwise, you are in a spot of trouble. So as we continue to see the racing continuing up at the front, I got my tongue wrapped around my teeth there. I'm curious, Howie, where exactly is the tail end of our field? That little duo of Bill Hull and Kirk Mills. They're 21 seconds back of the lead, so about half a lap behind.
They're going to make it without going a lap down. They're just crossing the start-finish line right now. Kirk Mills has some problems with his heart rate at Bristol, but this race probably hasn't been the most thrilling so far to up that, I imagine. On the main field, we are getting a little bit rowdy. Benefield's taken the point here. Devin Medeiros giving a chase. I think the two move well up to that upper line. Heavy pushes from Medeiros. It's going to bring him to the line. Tries to jump to the top. There's good momentum there. He could drag race it. It's Benefield's.
So Adam Benefield getting the stage win. That's going to help him out when it comes to the points. These drivers having to savor those stage points throughout the season. And after that big setback that he had after being suspended from the championship points lead, still holding on to P3 in the points, looking to bounce back. And results like that, either at the end of these stages or certainly at the end of the race, will help out his case quite a lot. We'll take a look at that top 10 here in a few moments' time once we load up the replay at the end of that stage, which was exactly the sort of stage finish we usually expect here at Talladega.
I do think, unfortunately, in my infinite wisdom trying to track Kirk Mills, we actually missed how Adam Benefield jumped to the top of this line, so we will watch this to work it out. It's easy to get distracted in this job, and you guys can call me out for it later. So here's where he tries to make that move to the top, lap 24. It's the right time and the place to make it. That's the 20 behind. He had a good run, though, at this stage, and at this point, that momentum was just going to carry. It was a matter of finding the time to finally make the move on Simpson. And Medeiros just was able to be there with him. That car very, very well set up for the end of stages in order to be able to make that jump just before the end. Here's your top 10 for the stage as we approach our first pit stops of the race.
Yeah, so pit stop's coming up soon. This is a point that we do have to raise, talking about the tire sets. 4 tire sets allotted to these drivers. It's Talladega, though. That does not make an ounce worth of difference. So these drivers just going to be worried about the fuel, put the tires on maybe just for convenience sake so it doesn't blow. Yeah, the grip isn't a problem. It's just a matter of waiting for the tire to maybe blow out there. So that's a big overshoot there on the pit stall. That's Simpson, wasn't it?
Looks like it was. Few passing through this lane very early indeed. Cody Bird might have run the lane here without stopping. Devin Medeiros actually jumps the field. He doesn't take any tyres. Adam Benefield then able to jump some in line. Blake Kluart doesn't take tyres. Eric Wineland doesn't. Neither does Dyson. Can be the play around here. They do not get worn very much. They may be able to make another run. Interested in what Cody Bird's doing though, because he did not stop that car.
Yeah, so fascinating call there from Cody Bird. Didn't really talk about him throughout that first stage of the race. Let's see if this call is going to work out there. Devin Medeiros jumping up into second. Adam Benefield, Blake Kluart, and Eric Wineland completing your top 5 at the moment. Now keeping tabs on Dash for Cash. Adam Benefield secretly and quietly currently your leader of those drivers right now. However, Blake Kluart, in all that has gone on so far here in this race, right behind in 4th, and you know, he's been able to put in some good results throughout his time here in the Friday Night Lights series. Was able to grab a win last year at Watkins Glen. We'll have to see if he can maybe put in a good performance like this a little bit later on here. You know, we're not too far away from that Watkins Glen race. It's only coming up just in 2 races' time. Once we get done with Texas next week, we're going to be heading off to the Glen for our first race out of the Dash for Cash. But I think even if it's not a win here tonight, I think he'll very much so enjoy a $100 paycheck.
Here's Cody Bird making his stop now, so it's Devin Medeiros that's going to lead after not taking tyres. Adam Benefield just behind in line. And I was thinking about Simpson, how far did he fall? He fell all the way to 12th. As a result, just need to put in that much more fuel. Not the longest pit stop, though. That may go to Bryce Reiner. He had 15 seconds in the box and was able to still get out ahead.
And it feels like a slightly understated portion of super speedway racing, but the strategy does come into the fold, both when it comes to the fuel saving as well as just making sure you can be out there on the racetrack exactly where you want to be at the end of these pit stops, at the end of these stages, and at the start of the stage after the pit stop is done and dusted with. So going to be fascinating to see how these drivers cut this restart. Adam Benefield with a clear shot up on the high side, going to work out well for him, hopefully. However, we know iRacing restarts on ovals. It's probably going to be Devin Medeiros in that bottom lane that gets to jump from high hell.
Well, from my experience, if you're on a super speedway, the answer is actually wait until green and don't do anything silly. If you get a jump on the field, what happens is they get the legendary run of the century as a whole field up on you in about 2 turns time, and then you get gapped by people wondering why you're checking up. It's very common for drivers to take super speedway restarts. Very easy. They want the rest of the train with them in line. Obviously, we will see how that one runs. Stage to lap 50 the next time around, so that will be shorter. Clean and green the first time. May be able to do this one again.
Yeah, but let's see how the second stage rolls here, Howie. I think it may be a little bit more frenetic than we saw to get the night up and rolling. These drivers may just try and amp up that aggression ever so slightly. Not hoping for a big one, though. Having a big one less than 50 laps into a Talladega race here in these O'Reilly cars would be a pretty big bumper, pretty big bummer. Field approaching the restart zone right now. Let's get stage 2 rocking and rolling.
Just like that, there's your greens, or jump from Medeiros actually. Bit of separation on that bottom line. That 14's also disconnected from Dyson behind. That top stayed a lot more connected, and that's really going to make the difference, I think. There's space for a car to jump down, in theory, if Drew Poole up on the top can actually sort of get clear in time. He's about a quarter panel too far forward. That gap's going to close, and we're back to normal operations. Now, it seems as if last run that top lane was very, very fast for a short while, and then it backed off in time. Seeing a bit of a repeat of this with Adam Benefield, who's going to jump to the bottom. Wineland giving heavy pushes down there. Big gap to the cars further on back. Medeiros on bottom, it's Drew Powell on top. And Benefield wants to take charge now on this run.
Yeah, trying to be the Pied Piper of the field is Benefiel. You know, throughout this campaign, he has been one of the, if not the most impressive driver to this point in the season. But despite that, and 3 poles to this point now, only 1 win, that coming at Phoenix in week 4. He certainly had the pace to contend since then. Should have probably won Bristol if he didn't decide to play the sportsman role and let Jonathan Delaney grab the win there. He felt a little bit bad with how that final pit cycle went after a late race yellow. But Adam Benefiel has been potentially the quickest, if not the quickest driver throughout this season. That, I think, is probably the coldest take that I've ever said in my history of broadcasting.
Leading the way, I wonder if he'll choose to give this up at one point or spend all 20 up in front. Further back, built off the back. Benefiel claiming on the microphone, by the way, he doesn't have a rear view mirror right now. Might have pressed the key to disable the virtual mirror. So he actually wouldn't quite know how much he's getting pushed if that one's true. Could you be the GOAT winning without a rear view mirror at Talladega? I'll leave that question up to the chat's interpretation, but, you know, I know there's some strong fans, so I do feel like that's going to go one way. A little bit of a gap being left down there by Wineland. I don't want Medeiros could take advantage of that, and I don't want him to send it really badly and force him up the track. That could be how an incident gets started. Jacob Simpson, dominator at that first stage. You can barely just see him on the top line there. He's the solo car up top. Dropping quite badly, and top lane there's actually moving quite fast right now. I think Benefiel seems to be like he does seem to be struggling just a little to hold on in some of these turns. Okay, he says he's back.
Yeah, so the case of the missing rear view mirror going on there. You know, I've heard my fair share of stories. That is up there, so you know that's. Would he truly be the GOAT? I think that would be up to us to decide, considering the YouTube chat is certainly a little bit biased in that regard. You know, funnily enough, the 2 biggest fans of Adam Benefiel that we see in the booth week in and week out, that being Dirt and Brad Dalton, both people who have gotten to the opportunity to work with on broadcast before, and I know how you've worked with Brad a lot more than I have. Very nice guy. Him and I did a couple of endurance races together before, and he's been able to see my absolute insanity on those endurance races firsthand, which is it's somehow even crazier than the stuff I get up to on these shorter shows.
We don't talk about what happens during endurance shows. Okay, like that. Those are the shows that drive anyone crazy. I don't end up saying very quickly. So, you know, what's happened in the endurance show generally stays in the endurance show, is my perspective. Benefield's dropped quite significantly as this top lane has real momentum. So he's given up the place to Cliff Mullins in line, but up top, they're absolutely charging. Drew Powell shooting to stay top alongside Bryce Reiner. There's a lot of unsteady pushes, though, through these turns. Out of all of the stock cars, all we're yellow in the field, it doesn't look like it was that significant. Brian von Henschel's involved. Curious what's actually thrown that one. Okay, Ryan von Henschel gave a sorry, so that could have just been a reaction to the yellow. No, because that was post-yellow. I think we were just reacting to fanning out. It's Kyle Amon. Here he is. Investigative journalist at his best. Wrecking off the back. Couple cars collected, all that 53 clobbered as well.
Yeah, unfortunate there are more drivers piling in there. Steve Benjamin was settled down at the back of the pack, just trying to keep it clean, but unfortunately, it's a chaos going on right in front of him. You can see that stacking up there, yeah. Lots of other drivers getting caught up in that, not necessarily smacking the wall, but some pretty significant damage there. I saw one car with a concave back bumper. That is very rarely seen in captivity.
So yeah, it all started with a big checkup around that 71, and the top lane does it too, and then it's a little bit like bowling in the back. And that's a car getting hooked out of nowhere. Some damage dealt, and our first caution for cause in the race. Make it so.
Yes, a second caution all in all after that first stage break. Drew Prohl, your current leader. Prohl was a driver who was actually involved in the Dash for Cash fight not too long ago. I believe it was last week at Kansas when he was one of the other drivers looking to get that Dash for Cash check. Eventually, it was Adam Benefield got that with a P2 finish in that race. We've kind of been working up to something here. We talking about the drivers and the Dash for Cash results. Joseph McWhorter was able to get that Dash for Cash bonus with a P3 finish at Bristol a couple of weeks ago. 1 week ago, Adam Benefield got the Dash for Cash after finishing second at Kansas. Here at Talladega, I have a feeling the driver may have to walk away with the W if things are to go the way that they are. And if that is the case, we'll have to head off into next week's broadcast here at Texas, wondering exactly how a driver could finish in 0th place.
Few drivers choosing to take the pit stop. This will be pragmatic about the long run into the next stage. You sort of sacrifice your stage position, but you're going to be golden when green flag stops come around in the final stage. And some of those drivers that already were, far back in the pack, didn't have too much to lose, have made that stop. Many just taking a top up on fuel or maybe a few tires along the way. They'll be able to join the back just in time. Well, there's our first wreck of the day. It's not the big one. It's not even a big one, actually. It's just one, just a couple cars left, right, and center. But it's the first sign of mistakes starting to build up.
Yeah, no, it's the first crack in the shield that these drivers have been able to put up so far here. So would that be just a 1, or would that be a moderate 1?
That's just a 1. That's just a 1. It's just a 1 for me.
Just a 1.
I've seen worse. We've all seen worse. I think you have to get at least 6 or more cars to be a moderate 1, and that didn't even meet that bar. So, what can you do?
Yeah, so that's just a 1. Then we head off into the moderate 1. Is there a level between moderate and big? I don't think there is, because I think moderate probably ends off at, I would say 10 cars, and then we head off into big 1 territory, and then from there it's pretty much just, big 1 to massive 1 versus, I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna make a joke, but I'm not going to.
We're all a little bit lost and confused already, and there's still, hours to go on the show today. Now, this is the real love and joy of a race at Talladega. It's the length for the cautions. When we wreck, we're here for a long time. You have a lot to mull over, a lot to think about, a lot to analyze, break down. Really quite a calming, meditative experience, perhaps. I hope we don't do them en masse, but I say that all the time. But, I got out of a race yesterday that had 13 cautions at Milwaukee. That was its own sort of pain, but at least those cautions were done a little bit quicker. On to green now. Our field already. I don't think, we have 2 retirements, Kyle Amon and Payson Lindsay. Payson didn't even start. Kyle Amon dropped out after that incident. Everyone else is still here. Whether or not their car is in a good state to hang with the pack is a different question, but they are still here.
Yeah, they're still out there on track, driving around at a fairly slow pace right now before we get up and rolling. Now that we have had that first incident, it being a little bit farther in the back, can we really say that's affected these drivers' mindsets? Maybe farther behind, but up in the front, I don't think it's going to change their mindset one bit. I think they're still going to be fairly level-headed. They weren't really just going out and killing everybody in the opening portion of this race. They've been fairly tempered, fairly relaxed. It has been easy going for those drivers up towards the front. Now, they have been a little bit froggy trying to get the moves done, but outside of that, it's been smooth sailing for the most part. So keep an eye on this field to maybe have a slight change of mindset as we go a little bit later on here in this race. But at the moment, I think they're still feeling happy. We're not even at the lap 40 mark of this race, so There's no point going for the jugular right now. It would just be unnecessary. I'm not really sure the best way I could sum it up. It's like rolling out of bed immediately trying to do 500 push-ups.
Well, this is going to certainly be a more anxious start for a lot of these drivers because it's a short stage now. 12 to go until we're done here. And I do think we're going to start seeing some moving up the field. I expect a driver like Benefield to sort of go for it again when the time is right. Let's take that long run into the restart zone. And that will be the green flag, led by Drew Pohl, who does decide to jump the field and go up top or bottom, or not really sure where he's going actually.
Well, he's going somewhere, that's for sure. Drew Pohl, and I say that, he's not really going anywhere. The field's stacking up right behind him. The 5 trying to push him along, get something rolling at there, just poking the bear with the stick, hoping the bear doesn't bite your face off. At the moment, though, Drew Pohl winning out in that face-off with the bottom lane. He's been able to get the momentum rolling now. Bryce Reiner right behind Cliff Mullins in that 44 machine, looking to bounce back after a somewhat rough go of things last time out in Kansas. Wasn't really a lot that he could do in that situation. It was pretty much just another driver kind of kicking him in the face repeatedly, and eventually that did boil over. But the 44 of Cliff Mullins, I think, looking for a slightly better go of things here at Talladega. Earlier leader of that bottom side is, for the first time in forever, the top side actually quit.
They always seem fast after a restart. We'll see how it happens near the end of the run, though, I think. They've certainly got some pace. Probably the place you really want to be right now. The 44 on the bottom. Really not getting anywhere. I need to work out who that is. That's a rogue number in our field. And we can't be having any of that. The one right... No, it is not. I literally can't count. There is a 44 in our timing tower. It's Cliff Mullins. See, that's a false accusation that they can use to dock me league points, actually. Starting to see a little bit... Thought they were starting to see a little bit of pace, but actually, no, still not really moving. Benefield's behind. You're going to start getting impatient if you're seeing this line just not move. It's going to be 10 to go in the stage now.
Yes, the time already running out. These drivers looking ahead to that stage finish. Everybody eyeballing those points. We've got some unique characters up inside the top 10 looking for some what could be very crucial stage points in their own respective fights to try and get close to that chase window, or maybe try and push their way in. This could be interesting. So Drew Pohl, current race leader, if he could walk away with the stage win, that would be a fantastic result for that driver of the 08 machine, just looking for a good haul of points. I think if there's any drivers that are going to be enjoying this position, though, it is Cliff Mullins, who, as it stands right now, is only 15 out of the chase. 15 points out of this.
Someone's going to try and take this from him before the stage is over. I almost count on it. This is not going to remain this peaceful, but everyone chooses to keep their peace. A real move to the bottom from Mullins there. Sort of unstable, that whole line, and now that's going to keep getting worse for them. Drew is sort of a lane slightly up. That might affect the pace. Reiner tries to match. Still no change on the line.
Yeah, a little breakaway going on there for your top side. Just the top 5 drivers building out a slight margin for themselves. Now, will they tempt fate and cut down to the bottom? Always talk about the management that you have to do here in these plate races. Manage the draft, manage the runs, and it's kind of like high school in the sense where you got to manage a lot of friendships. You know, you're trying to make some friends, not make too many enemies, avoid the bullies at all costs. Some people can play that a little bit better than others. At the moment, though, these drivers still trying to be friendly with each other as much as they can. I say that Bryce Reiner thought about leaving Drew Pohl out to die there. that would not make a friend out of the 08, that is for sure. And Bryce Reiner, I think, realized that. It's like, okay, you know, not going to tempt fate, not going to try and poke that sleeping bear too much here. Everybody's hungry for that stage win. It's just a matter of who can get it.
That bottom lane's moved now. Cliff Mullins up in line. Benefield pushing along. Still 2 lines too wide. Little bit of a move to the top from a few. That's Simpson leading the row. It might be a bit early though to get a lot of buy-in on that. There's more drivers you'd expect trying. But actually, I'm still not sure they're going to get it completely moving yet. Still have enough time in this stage. Now a big move from the top there, faster. They are typically faster on the trioval and back straight. You get a lot of momentum that way. This could end up being the long run prognosis here.
And the last big word I learned like that was mayonnaise. But right now, these drivers with the doctor trying to figure out exactly what prescriptions they need to get a good result here in this stage. Whether or not they're going to get a prescription of give a damn, or yeah, we'll have to find out. Maybe a prescription of bug it all. I did not say the word. F-U-G.
Isn't this the sort of channel where you can let loose very often though? Can be. Jeff's always watching though, you know. Whether or not he's actually watching, Jeff is like always watching in his own sense. He's like an eternal name on the top of it all. Not too long.
See, as long as we don't actually say the word, that's what matters. That's what I learned from the Columbia School of Broadcasting. Don't say the word. You can insinuate it, which is why sometimes they call Chaotic Race a shiitake mushroom show, but that's besides the point.
Well, you know why I love commentating on Virginia. It's because it's the one time you can just say the word. And I always try and sneak in every single time. Maybe we should bring these cars to VIR. I'd love to see the chaos, get those 3 things through the S's and all the way down. One ducking out of line. Delaney going into the pit lane, actually. Delaney stopping. Going to try and flip this stage. An interesting move for the long run here. It's getting a little bit more chaotic near the front. Should be 5 to go on the stage now. We are seeing drivers that a little bit more desperate, but no one's quite ready to make a bold move, and there isn't much space to do it, really. That middle line does give up a car's width of space on the exit too, though. That could be the opportunity. More now diving to the top, though. They keep trying. Jacob Simpson wants to be back up on top. He needs that Joseph McQuarter watching him the whole time, but it hasn't materialized.
And so now with only a handful of laps left to go here in this stage, Drew Prohl sensing a good opportunity here, but he's going to have to be on defense big time. Talked about the drivers looking to try and get a good result out of this stage. Drew Prohl, as it stands right now, heading into this race, is not in our playoff discussion, but we'll look to try and get some good points to maybe get himself in there. Bryce Reiner, as it stands right now, that 5 car, he's been able to put together some strong results. Currently 9th at the moment in those chase standings. You look right behind at Daniel Wiles, our pole sitter, heading off into this race here tonight. He's, as it stands right now, best of the rest, 4th place. So good run of points for him here tonight would be exactly what the doctor ordered. And Cliff Mullins, another driver that we have to consider. Talking about that, I said that he was 15 points out of the playoff window heading into this race. So a chase window. I'm happy that I can autocorrect myself and call it just the chase. Cliff Mullins looking to impress here. Lots of other drivers with very different agendas, all with that same goal of getting a good haul of points. Even Andrew Dyson, who's just barely on the outside looking in.
That top hasn't quite worked yet, and who else to try it again but Simpson, always followed by McQuarter. The two have just been persistently trying to dive up there. This time there's more give to it though, I think. The run's not bad, but the problem is there's no support. More cars back, and this bottom's been getting faster. I would count on Adam Betterfield to try and make this move sooner rather than later. With the laps winding down, this would be a repeat of what happened last time, and we're not going to look at the back of the field this time around. Mullins a little bit off the bottom though, and Adam settles him. Betterfield's committed now. Not quite the white on the stage, but you'd like to be leading into the white on the stage. Wineland joins. That top, more and more cars joining. They're not moving very well, though. That's Betterfield ducked out in first. He's going to try and now lead this pack to the green and white checkered. One more to go on the stage when they cross the line. It's actually left Wineland out to dry now. It's Cliff Mullins he has to rely on. Don't know if Wineland will be able to make the move himself.
Yeah, so Wineland, who's had a somewhat bitter run throughout this campaign, not the set of results that he was looking for at the moment. I think he senses a fantastic opportunity to right the wrongs that have been made so far this season for a driver who's just barely clinging on to a chase spot. Help assure that just a little bit more as they head their way down the back stretch in the second stage for the last time.
3 wide to the line. Wineland moves up and makes the dive to the bottom. Betterfield doesn't quite have the support though, because up on the top, Pearl wants to do it himself. This is going to deny him that chance. He's being supported by Reiner on the top. And I think that bottom actually might have it. It's going to be close. I do think it's Powell's.
Yeah, I think Pearl got it just barely there. Yeah, I think he got there. I think it was probably by a bumper, maybe a little bit more, but that's a fantastic haul of points for him. And Eric Wineland certainly gave him something to worry about there as a yellow flag came out and the green and white checkers fell.
See how close we can get this angle. Here we go. Slow it well down. Drew Powell's in that. Oh wait, I think he is the one do the position. Nah, it's a little bit too slow. But you believe you can go slower in speed, but you can't actually and go back in steps. You have to play and then go slow again and hope you don't lose it. So we're just going to run it like this. It's okay. I mean, the cautions last long enough here anyway.
Yeah, I'll probably have gray hair by the time we get this green flag back up and rolling. You can see there, Betterfield just sticking a 3 wide as we got towards the end. Even though we didn't talk about it too much on that stage, still walks away with a P3 when it is all done. And there you can see that gap start to grow as they headed their way towards that line. Finally, it's in sight. And yeah, clearly ahead there in the case of the 08. Pretty staggered out there. I mean, granted, if that was a finish, it would be incredibly close, but for the finish of the stage, it was not exactly fully side-by-side, just staggered out like a podium.
Your top 10 in the stage before we make it to the pit stops. Oh, I had to do that one quickly, but it did take the field quite a long time to reform in my defense. Make it our second pit run of the race. And a few drivers have offset the pit strategy here, of course. They decided that they were going to stop very late in that stage. Some of them might actually return. I mean, I believe everybody's in the lane, but that means that they have extremely short stop now. They could jump this field very, very efficiently. Jacob Simpson, one of them. Lucas Hoytson has actually stayed out. He was one of those that stopped earlier, and he's 5 into a stint, so he's short on fuel now. But he's actually going to choose to lead this field, entering the final stage.
And so now the final stage comes with it. The prospect for maybe having green flag stops. The only reason why I'm mentioning that, Howie, is these drivers have been supremely clean through to this point. They haven't, completely thrown caution to the wind. There have been a couple of moments, of course, 1 yellow flag so far for incident. But all in all, the drivers have kept it smooth. So if we do have green flag pit stops, that'll add in a whole different dynamic as we get towards the end of this race. May split the pack up a little bit, may give these drivers just a little bit to run nervous about as we see that checkered flag approach in the not too distant future. But I know one thing for sure, that'll just give these drivers a bit more of a headache. And this was a observation that I made about 24 hours ago on a different broadcast. Us broadcasters just like it when racing drivers are deeply, deeply uncomfortable.
Nothing quite like a race where the leader just runs away and nothing happens. No. We want to see action, and we do want to see something to talk about. Gives us something to work on. There's a balance between too much chaos and I think too much order in any given race.
Yeah, there is a very fine line there. It's a razor's edge, and it's very easy to go over that. You know, one moment away from having commentators wish for a little bit of chaos and craziness, and then we're just hoping to God that there's not an incident between then and the fall of the checkered flag. I think, honestly, Howie, last week, we had a bit of that going on at Kansas, where we kind of ping-ponged back and forth between very smooth, very collected, just easy going for the drivers. Went from that to bedlam, absolute bedlam. And even, you know, just taking away from just this series here, Howie, I think we have done a fair share of our broadcast that we probably hoped had a bit more yellows, and we've also had our fair share of races where we hoped that there would be just an end to the cautions. I remember my first broadcast here on Maconi Entertainment back in July of 2024. It was my first show outside the company that I started off with. So after that, I didn't really know what to expect heading off into this. It was a NASCAR Truck Series race at Pocono, covering the officials. The longest green flag run that we had throughout that race was the 2-lap green-white checkered at the very end.
That is called
So that was
officials. It's like C6.
Yeah.
Like even when the truth of the matter is, even when Jeff Maconi sponsored the C6 series, he knew it was a hive of scum and villainy where no good driving came free. Like he knew that was the case. You have to rationally know that that's the case. That it was not a good place to be. Ironically, people believe that the best place to be for like the highest level NASCAR racing is the B Open series. So with the O'Reilly cars, with open setups, much like we have today here. That's sort of considered the upper echelon when it comes to getting good SOFs.
You know, I think I said this comment early on at Kansas last time out when Kirk, our colleague Kirk Mills, was talking about a move that was done out there on the racetrack. Probably half my time doing oval broadcasts has been spent under yellow, but these drivers have kept it clean and smooth throughout the first half of this race, throughout the first two stages. Now, though, heading off into the final stage in the final 60 laps, let's see if that remains true.
Longest stage, it's more than half of the race in length, 60 to go, and we cross the line. Green flag here at Talladega. Simpson's back at the point. Hoytsma's down from 5th all the way up to here, but he's doing an alternate strategy. He's about 5 laps short on fuel to the rest of the field, so he is hoping that a caution falls his way at the right time. That's Dave at the top there, almost sort of wobbled down a lane. That could have been concerning. Remains fine for now. Pretty even on the two lines to begin.
Yeah, no side really having a clear advantage, just side by side throughout the pack. Everybody keeping it clean and smooth. Nobody throwing haymakers at each other, which is understandable. We're just now getting the momentum back rolling in these cars. Right now, everybody pretty much even keel. No line proving to be dominant. Now, though, as the momentum builds and these drivers start to have those handful of just very brief but still poignant code brand moments, will we see the lanes start to break up, whether it be that top side that starts to break apart or the bottom lane? Only time will tell. I think both sides have had their fair share of that throughout this race. We've seen the top side break out into civil war quite a lot. We've seen that bottom side, though, just be about as broken apart as a plate that just fell out of the cabinet.
Top lane pretty fast. First time McQuarter's really been able to hook up with Simpson successfully for the whole race. And the bottom has been slow. Typical early run. Now it's Dave Hoytsma though that's going to try and make this bottom lane work. Quite the gap between him and Hoytsma. Try and make this one come together. Lots can change, and if we get green flag pit stops, obviously this whole field gets shuffled. The very least now for Hoytsma, he's not leading. Lucas didn't want to lead because he's going to have to save as much fuel as possible in order to make it through this. His pit stops are going to be off cycle if we run without any problem. That's Kirk Mills all the way up at the top of the track. He has been on the circuit. I'm trying to work out what the car even says. It seems pretty nihilistic. I'll work that one out in my own time as we move up the track. But it's the first time McQuarter's really gotten what he wants done.
Yeah, no, throughout this race, Joseph McWhorter has not really had the friends to help him out. They've just been like, okay, you went up to that top side, have fun with that. I'm not going to help you out. But now, though, holding on to P2, he's rather quick here in these plate races. I'll have to look back to see what his career stats have been here at Talladega. But he's no slouch in this series for sure, and I think is probably just chomping at the bit, probably more than anybody else in this field, to grab win number one. Your championship points leader yet to win so far this season. Maybe Talladega here will be the time to prove everybody wrong.
I do, though, see a bit of a fighting spirit in Benefield every time the end of a stage comes, and obviously all bets are off at the very, very end of a long race, or a long run. So yeah, I've worked out what's going on in Kirk's car. It's just it's just got a lot of nihilistic thoughts on it, to be honest. The world is filled with bad people. An awful lot are on iRacing. How can anyone find joy here? Is on one of the sides of that car. Not kidding, by the way. Been rotting on plain sight, waiting on 6 feet of dirt. Those are the words on Kirk Mills' car, and I'm not going to try and analyse that one too much deeper. That's just the message that's been sent out to the world today in that car. McQuarter, yeah, indeed, that might be the right answer to break up the pace. McQuarter pushing Benefield. No, it's Benefield pushing McQuarter now. It's McQuarter and Simpson. I think they are certainly a team that's been playing this one together and always making the same moves with each other.
Yeah, the harmonica having to snap us right back into this. Happy times, 55 laps left to go. Jacob Simpson, your leader, still McWhorter right there in tow. Your top line starting to just slowly but surely eke out a margin. I think Cliff Mullins, as the time goes along here in this race, he does get more speed, but at the start of these stints, not sure what the deal is. I mean, usually you don't talk about that here, but he's kind of just like, I can't tell if it'd be a rolling roadblock or the cork in the bottle, cork in the bottle for that bottom lane. I nearly said cork in the bottom for that bottle lane. That's not proper English at all. That 44, though, they're on the bottom side, just not able to get the same sort of speed, not able to get the same sort of stuff working out for him. Now, whether that is to put on Mullins or whether or not it's just the other cars right behind him trying to push him along, that remains to be determined. You'd expect a little bit of cooperation there, because directly behind Cliff Mullins is Dave Hoytsma in the 79, and directly behind Dave is his son Lucas.
Well, that's a team that certainly will be working together more so than anyone else. Sometimes you have that parental instinct. You just know what your own child's going to do on the track. Bit of blinking from McQuarter. Very scary to see on a super speedway of this kind. And I mean, this top speed and absolute speeding missile right now. They've kept form very well, and Cliff Mullins on the bottom's been basically nowhere. now getting a little bit of pace. He's moved up to the 5 car of Bryce Reiner up on top. Noticing as well, 56 from Noah Woods is now quite a bit closer to this action. We've not really noticed Noah Woods all day, but now he's in with this. See, I'm listening in on the microphones. We're quite some time away from pit stops, so I'll let you know the first time we get any calls into the pit lane. But it remains pretty clean, and stable for the first part of this final stage.
Been smooth, been clean, still a little bit of competition going on out there, but all in all, these drivers running very, very smooth indeed. Yeah, there's been a bit of a continual theme as of recent. That's a little bit of smoke heading off through 3 and 4. I think someone may have lost. You just see the shredded remains of tires. Was that potentially Cody Bird? Was he the driver that we saw maybe have that? Because that looked like more than one a streak of tire marks there. That, or it was just my eyes, not really doing me any justice, which they are my eyes. That is certainly within the realm of possibilities. Let's see this here from Bird. Pulls out of line, stacking up right in front. Oh, that's the 1, the 42, and the 15 of Cody Bird. You just see those tire marks there in the smoke had yet to fully blow away there. The fact that they were stopped there on the apron. Again, iRacing automatic yellows usually only get thrown whenever the driver is stopped above that apron. Here, though, they're below that double yellow line, so it works out well. But once again, it's another crack forming in the shield.
A small wreck. That's Cody Bird's pit stop on the side, and that's right, likely where you saw the smoke on the track. Now, Benefield alongside Simpson. These lanes have shifted quite a bit as more drivers have chosen to take the bottom, and that's given them a semblance of momentum now. Still that top fast for Benefield being pushed hard by Bryce Reiner.
Another third lane trying to work out farther behind. I don't know about it. Every single time I see a driver up there trying to make something work, it just does not. Because I don't think I explained it too well earlier on here. So I'm gonna try and touch on this point once more and make it seem to be a bit less like gobbledygook. Because of how wide this track is, everybody's not as cramped. Everybody's able to have some room to breathe. And that top side that would usually be pretty much just sandwiched between the, well, it would end up being the middle lane and the wall, picking up the slipstream and picking up the side draft. They can't really get it here. So it doesn't present too many opportunities for a third lane to materialize, work, show strength, get any sort of number or momentum going on behind it. That is one slight curse of this track. You've got to have a lot of people helping you out to try and make a third lane work.
Oh, Benefield tries to move down, and Simpson gets up to his quarter panel quickly enough. Doesn't clear himself. Good instinct there to not wreck the field. It's a little bit early for that. Just because it's due doesn't mean you want to do it right now. You want to sort of keep it in your system.
Yeah, keep that big one in your back pocket, shall we? I think that is what I would do personally if I was out there on the racetrack. It's like, hey, if I'm gonna junk up half the field, may as well do it at the end. Let's have a little. It's like a fireworks display. You don't want to shoot off your best stuff right at the start. May as well have a grand finale. Actually, on the subject of that here, Adam Benefield said in his interview last time at Kansas that because this is his hometown track, he was probably expecting to get sent off into the catch fence. Well, it hasn't happened yet. The racing gods, though, are rather brutal.
You're setting that one up badly, I think. If that happens, you can all blame Ron. Because we actually now the fan club have shown up. Dirt's now here, saying that Adam should win this as a birthday gift to the leader of his fan club, and you know, that's a good justification, if any. Don't know if he's listening live right now. If he is, that better not be motivation to do something stupid. This time he's able to get to the bottom. He's far enough ahead of Simpson. He's been trying that for a while, but now back up, now back down. I think he's now going to have to commit to that bottom as Bryce Reiner clears up. No, he's back up top again. You've got to choose your allies carefully. And it looks like that bottom, he's thought about it a few times and it's not come to him.
See, I'm trying to employ a little bit of reverse psychology here. I'm trying to, kind of like reverse jinx Adam Benefield, saying that he may get sent up into the catch fence, and then it doesn't actually happen. That's the high IQ chess move that's going on here. Still keep an eye on this field side by side throughout the whole pack. Coming on 46 laps left to go here in this race. This is going to be the final time that these drivers hit the racetrack for a super speedway. So a little bit later on in this campaign when we head back off to Atlanta. I'll get the actual date right here. That Atlanta race is going to be on July the 10th. We will already be past the 250th of the U.S. by the time we head back onto a super speedway. So this will be the last hurrah for these drivers to get the chance to enjoy the strong draft, enjoy the pack racing, and try not to doze off in the process.
Some drivers, this may only be a warm-up. Same time, same place tomorrow. Full-length Cup Challenge comes to Talladega for a much longer run of this track in the NASCAR Cup Series Car. And next week we'll be at Texas. One of those, I call Texas the ugly duckling of the intermediates, to be honest. We've not actually had that many of them on the schedule, things considered, though. We're about to sort of run into them. There'll be Watkins Glen and Dover to mark the midpoint of May.
You see, I usually refer to Texas as just like a garbage taco, or like a really bad hot dog. Is a hot dog technically a taco? They always say it's a sandwich. I think it's technically a taco in that sense.
Oh, there's a compelling case to be made. There's a compelling case to be made, I'm afraid, Ron. And I don't like admitting that. Not one bit.
I think I just thought of the worst thought of my life. A hot dog served inside of a hard taco shell.
Go look
that
up
sounds like my version of sensory hell.
Go look up the Saturday Night Live sketch Taco Town. They basically did that over a decade ago. In fact, they did it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger than that. It was quite the. I remember finding it very funny when I was a kid, watching YouTube and just coming across funny YouTube videos. And now I'm apparently an adult.
Look at Bill Hader's sideburns in that clip. Golly, it looks like he's trying to audition for like an 80s version of America's Got Talent. That is unbelievable.
Time flies. It really does. This is our way of passing time to tell you that we're still too wide in much the same way that we have been for a while. Adam Benefield has definitely chosen
turning left and going fast.
Like, Adam Benefield has had the choice between Bryce Ryder and Jacob Simpson. He's sort of ducked between the two choices and he's committed to it. We have a yellow, and it also isn't another massive one, so I'm trying to work out where. That's Daniel Wiles. That's our first sign that something went wrong.
Yeah, the first bit of debris spotted by the crash test investigators.
Whoa.
Very slow. And that's pretty much just like a Noon's cradle there, and Wiles sliding his way off into the infield. Thankfully, avoids any contact with the barrier. Is that driver with a blown motor there?
I think there's a blown motor on pit road because Dustin Hall hasn't repaired it. Anyway, there's the Newton's cradle effect that's led to that sort of the checkup leading to bumps from both front and behind, and it's hard to control. Oh, the 76.
Oh!
Bill Hull. No completely trashed cars, I'll tell you that. No completely destroyed cars. That aero is not going to help you in terms of pace, but our only meatball is for someone that left the engine too long in the pit lane, and I reckon he's down and out of it. Well, isn't this curious, though, on the timing? We basically now have a stage of racing ahead, meaning we probably get the whole field into the pit lane right now.
Yeah, so you know how I said that we were maybe going to have some green flag pit stops? Well, so I guess that kind of adds in a different dynamic here. We don't have to worry about the pit stops. We can just worry about flat out racing through to the end. If they break out some fuel saving, though, I'm going to be real sad.
Well, let's see what the field choose to do, but I do have the feeling the decision's pretty much been made for everybody. Lucas Hoytsman's benefit the most from this, though. He did short fuel, and now he's not going to suffer any of the pain of short fueling, and he'll be able to come out near the top 10. Quote, just a hot dog in a taco shell doesn't sound great, but a hot dog in a regular taco, I might try that. It sounds good. I'm glad we have people that can go along with what we do on a good old Talladega night.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dirt, for humoring us here on this show. And I also saw "Gotta Be a Ballpark" though. Whenever I see anything about Ballpark, I know it's relating to the hot dog brand, but the Phillies are making me sad. They have lost 9 games in a row, and I believe as it stands right now, plug your ears if you don't want spoilers against the Phillies and Atlanta Braves game. They're on track to lose their 10th in a row. I don't know the last time they lost 10 games in a row. I would go out and guess that it hasn't been since I was in middle or elementary school. This is getting desperate, as a field now coming down pit lane for pit stops.
Well, you know the other sports franchise that I could update you on the scores of every week when the season kicks off, but I'll choose not to. Quite the race off pit road for P2 there. Benefield a clear beneficiary, but behind then I think McQuarter actually just had that on the line. So he's going to start outside. Brandon Hastings will join Benefield, and Jacob Simpson will be P4. Noah Woods had a good jump there. Started 28th. This is a good result for him now if he stays up here. But there's still a lot of chaos to go. And Michael Deach, who I called it out earlier. But, I mean, someone has to do it, don't they? Someone has to get in to the Cougar car. Great first, you're lost.
Yeah, the Cougar car is certainly unique. I do like it, though. I like the reference.
Tell me you've seen the movie. Do you understand?
See, I do understand the reference. I have not seen the movie, though. I've not seen it.
Well,
at
least
least
you understand. At least you understand.
Yeah, that I do.
The British
have you ever
person's seen the movie more than you.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good little story. So, this was of a tour of a race shop that I did right outside of New Jersey Motorsports Park here in Millville. The last remaining tech track on iRacing, the day that gets turned into a regular scan is the day that pigs begin to fly and hell freezes over. I was getting a tour there, and they had a little duo of mini stocks. One painted up like Ricky Bobby's car, and the other painted like Cal's Old Spice car. And right after that, they said, "You know what that movie is?" And I just walked away and I said, "Yeah, I love Days of Thunder." And that was met with uproarious laughs. That was the same day I got to sit into an LMP3 car. That was a very fun. I fit in that somehow. Somehow I fit into that. Back when I was in 2020, where I was taller horizontally than I was vertically back then.
I've got the other problem. I'm too tall to get into any Formula car. I'm literally at the cutoff line. You're being
I think
you're being begged to watch the movie, by the way. I agree. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think it may be time for me to actually break down and watch Days of Thunder and
Talladega Nights. What?
Yes. See, I'm saying the both because I made that reference about me mixing up the two in a humorous circumstances one conversation point ago. Yeah, I gotta watch the both of them.
I might have tuned out for it. I might have been tuned out.
Hey, fair enough.
That might be the answer.
It's a little bit of color from me. It is fair to tune out as I go on my long meandering tirades. I gotta watch the both of them. I've not watched either. The first movie, like, I nearly said adult movie, but that's not the phrase I'm looking for. The first movie that is not meant for children that I watched was Used Cars, posted in 1980. Released in 1980. Anyone ever see the movie Used Cars? That's a good one. I would try and recite my favorite scene in that, but I would probably get fired right here, right now. Not only by murdering high prices, but by blowing the living bleep out of high prices.
Well, Dirt's saying that I need to watch Days of Thunder. I've not watched that one. So, we're both missing out on something at the very least. and he would beg me, go watch Days of Thunder, and I'd be like, yeah, I should. Away we go, Adam Benefield to lead. Consider this basically a single stage worth of racing with 39 to go and they cross the line. No more need for pit stops in this run by any means. So it's going to be pretty flat out blast. Off we go to wrap up the race at Talladega.
On that bottom side, I think, has a bit more strength in numbers, and that top side just a little bit broken up. It's not a major, it's not like small little fractures. It is one major break there. It is not a huge one, at least for the first one, but far behind. It is absolutely mahoosive. Ricey says that, though. Bit of a breakaway forming on the bottom side, the top 5 on the bottom. Just driving away from the rest of the pack. Gotta wonder how this is gonna work out there. It looks like Drew Prohl able to close up that margin and catch up. But for moments like that, they can be brutal as we get into the final 40 laps of this race. You gotta just maximize every single lap now. It's not a matter of being there at the end. You just have to be there no matter what the circumstances are. Be there from the start of this green flag run, which could very well be the last, all the way through to that white flag.
Well, at no point has the driver leading 2 laps to go in the stage actually has won the stage over in this race. That was a coherent thought until my brain turned into total mush, and I hope you picked up enough of the details that it follows through. But, you know, it's always been a driver from behind that slingshotted, and with the way the start-finish line is placed here, of course, it does benefit those that get really big runs near the end for those grandstand finishes. You don't necessarily want to be running plumb first. Now, look back here. We're already going 3 wide and losing the field a little bit. This is a huge, huge field drop. Bryson Hixenbaugh is leading up this, and really, like, the time to be playing strategy might be approaching its end relatively soon if you want to maximize your points around there. And he's one of those 3 drivers that's in that points chase at the very, very top to try and secure the best place they can going into the chase later this season. Gonna feel a little bit wavy on lanes with the drive behind 2. Brandon Hastings. They've managed to sort it out in time, though.
Yeah, now everybody back into regular formation flying just side by side throughout the pack, trying to get there to the end. That's the thing about super speedway racing. You're pretty much just sent there in a nice little line and holding on for dear life until the race finally comes to an end. I like the comment, though, in the YouTube chat. I need you to get back out on the track and hit the pace car. Hit the pace car. That's the only thing you haven't hit today.
Can't do that here. That's the one thing that you just can't do. iRacing won't let you have it. And I think we need to stage protests until we can get out there and hit the pace car. That's the one thing that would improve the sim, actually. Make it so we can hit the pace car. You know when it flies through the field sometimes? Like, make it just smash for every car like bowling pins on the way.
Oh, I have a good little story to share here. Maconi Entertainment story. This was of a truck series that we were covering. Not the official truck series. It was a truck league that we were covering last year. I was doing a broadcast. I can't remember where. I think it may have actually been here, in fact. And the pace truck was heading out onto the racetrack to try and catch up to the field. Right as the driver was stopped there, and I saw the pace truck come through and bulldoze through, and I screamed like a little girl, thinking that I just witnessed a terrible T-bone impact 30 seconds after an accident took place. Then I registered at that exact point that it was the pace truck. I would love to see the pace truck with realistic crash physics. You know, like, contact the people at, like, BeamNG Drive to do something like that. I think that would be good just for disgruntled iRacers who want to take out their aggression, not on the cars out there on the racetrack that they're racing with, but the pace car. I think that would be a nice little way to clean up the system. You know, just let the drivers wreck the crap out of something else outside their competitors.
Consider this thought in your head. In real racing, you see a horror crash, and the first thing you think is, oh God, that's a horror crash, before eventually you maybe find out news whether the driver is okay. But our role in sim racing is to, when we see a giant crash, repeatedly zoom in on it about 50 different ways from 50 different angles, because we know there's no risk and no fear. Bit of a dodgy bump there onto Adam Benefield from Brandon Hastings, able to save it just in time. Noah Woods has really climbed up. So Hastings started 32nd. Noah Woods started 28th. They basically just benefited from and played the pit game, and then the cautions have fallen their way to put them right there.
Yeah, 34 laps left to go here at Talladega. Adam Benefield, your leader. Brendan Hastings in P2. Want quickly, if it is at all possible, just touch on some of our Dash for Cash competitors. Adam Benefield pretty much been the Pied Piper of them all throughout this race. Joseph McWhorter has been up and down the field like Otis Elevator. As it stands right now, though, he's running in third. Your current leader on that top side. So if there's anybody that will maybe give Benefield a challenge when it comes to that Dash for Cash, it could be him. Of course, those two are your Dash for Cash winners at the moment here this season. So you got to consider those two. Also have to consider the Dash for Cash drivers been able to put in the most consistent performances outside of those two. It's Bryce Reiner, slotted in 10th right now in that 5 machine. He's been able to put together a good run. We'll have to see if he can complete it come time for the end. Benefield kind of playing both ends against the middle, blocking the top and the bottom side, trying to hold on to that race lead. One last car involved in the Dash for Cash. One driver a little bit farther behind. It's Blake Kluwad, who started this race outside the top 10, was briefly running up inside the top 3, but things have since fallen back down.
Another driver that's gained a lot of places, we need to shout out, is Wesley Napier. Our second highest gain of 26 places. A lot of drivers have benefited from the cautions and the pit stops. Our pole sitter, Daniel Wild, all the way back there, was involved in wrecks earlier on in the race. The car looks like it's in a pretty good condition, but going to be hard to make those moves really up the field. Really, on very few drivers that started up front have stayed there. Benefield started up near the front and stayed there. So has Simpson. Bryce Reiner is all the way down to P9. So I'd say that he has gained the absolute best of it around here. Still leading the way, Adam Benefield. We're going to hit 30 to go next time we cross the line.
Yeah, so 30 laps left to go. I present to you all once again now for something completely different. The Phils lost their 10th game in a row. Howie, I may have to show this to you on one of the next broadcasts we do, or potentially once we're done with this one. I know it's like 3 o'clock in the morning or some ridiculous hour for you there in the UK. But one of the best ever sports radio calls was from a disgruntled Chicago White Sox fan early in 2023, called into a local Chicago radio station and completely tore the Chicago White Sox executives a new one on the air. Probably the best rant I have heard. This man ranted for about 7 minutes about the Chicago White Sox, anger that had been building for the entire 40 years that he had been on planet Earth, did not let loose a single curse word throughout. I'm getting to the point now with my beloved Phils where I may be approaching that territory very, very soon. 10 games in a row. I'm going to get the stats here before we're done with this broadcast, but I'd be willing to bet that I was in this single digits age-wise the last time they lost 10 straight.
I've seen race finishes that have justified commentators jumping out and just suddenly lashing out the drivers and saying things are unacceptable. I recall a moment where someone intentionally wrecked to finish a championship, and it actually led to a league coup that took the whole thing down in not too much time. That was a bit of a dramatic tale.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Yeah, things like that suddenly can lead to a couple crash outs in time. There's occasional drama and strife in FLCC, but we'd generally say that still standards are pretty good, and we eventually find a way to get on at the end of all of it, even if it's difficult in the moment. So I think short tracks just make us mad, you know? That's just what inherently happens.
Yeah, no, some of the short track races we had a couple of weeks ago, now that we're out of that streak, I can fully say it. Just seeing some of the stuff that went down in those races, it's, you know, it's like, I don't know, being the Michelin Man and somebody coming up and just stabbing you in the lung. That was such a buzzkill. As I looked into it, the last time that the Philadelphia Phillies lost more than 10 games in a row was an 11-game losing streak back from September the 4th to the 14th of 1999. My grandmother, both of them, were still alive by then. I was -5.
I was alive. Come on. Am I your grandparent? I mean, I wasn't exactly able to, you know, notice stimuli very particularly well, but like I was there. 1999? Like.
See now I feel. Now I feel bad about it. We'll cut this by saying my grandfather was had passed away at that point. I think my grandfather would now be 118 years old. He lived a very, very long life. Thank you once again to AMR for breaking his neck in the back of an ambulance back then. Anyways, we got side-by-side racing going on for P3, but your top three on that bottom lane of Benefield, Hastings, and Woods just all by themselves right now. Jared Godzicki looking to get involved in it, but I'm still keeping my eyes on your topside leader, the 22 of Jacob Simpson. Mentioned him being your winner in the last played race at Atlanta. Think he's going to be really strong as we get into the final 25.
Still not seeing the dramatic pushing and moving. Everybody just trying to keep this one as clean as they can. In fact, we've not seen a big one all day here at Talladega, which sounds like it's tempting fate pretty badly here. But I'm going to hang in there with my prayer, I'll say. We've not seen the big one here yet, and there's no evidence to suggest that the big one exists or can hurt us. So take that. Still Adam Benefield leading. Makes me curious though whether he's going to be able to hold this. He's going to have to do a lot of blocking at the end of this race if he's still first, when the chips start falling near the very end.
Yeah, I think the real big one is the friends that we have made along the way. We saw a moderate one. It wasn't even a moderate one. It was just a one that we saw a bit earlier on here. We've had a couple more since then, but all in all, I'll commend these drivers. They've put together a smooth, clean, and overall fantastic night of racing action in terms of keeping it clean out there on the racetrack. Race control is probably asleep at the moment. They haven't had to do anything.
And that's rare after a day at Talladega. Nice race control getting an easy one. They can just watch along from the back. Although there's not been a terrible amount of action to watch either. I don't even think drivers have been fuel saving. I just think they've been racing conservatively. They've been racing carefully and they've just been trying to get through and out of here in enough time. And my sleep cycle respects that. I do have somewhere to be tomorrow. So, you know, I appreciate the hard work that everybody puts in, even though we are paid by the hour. I'll get over that part. 24 to go.
Should I tase myself?
No, you should not tase yourself. I shouldn't even have to tell you that.
I have done that once. It wasn't on broadcast. It was for a video. And you won't be able to guess the subject. It was the inaugural Champ Car race at St. Pete. And that race was about as boring as whale poop.
I think on board Joseph McQuarter on the bottom lane. Try walking up that banking. They always say it's a lot more extreme in real life than you could possibly imagine. I always find it hard to visualize the length of a NASCAR oval. I find it hard to visualize that Charlotte is 1.5 miles, that it would take a long time to walk around. I find that hard to visualize. But I can visualize the scale of Talladega. That's the track where I could think, yeah, that would be 2.5 miles and a pain to walk around. I think they should take the Formula V's here.
That would be interesting for a lap guide there. And heading our way down this back straightaway, we're going to take a pause now. We'd probably be able to cut to a full commercial break, and they would still be heading off into 3 and 4. Remember one time covering a Skip Barber race at Spa? And we're talking like 3-minute lap. I think it was like 3.5-minute long lap times. Those cars, fantastic. Probably some of the best road cars, certainly the best Formula cars when it comes to racing in terms of the draft. Slipstreaming, all that stuff up there with the V. And there's a good reason why. They develop about as much power as a standard household appliance. I would say that my microwave downstairs probably produces more power than a Skippy. We love them, though. It's the only iRacing car that I think could get turned into a plushie.
I would get a Skippy plushie. Actually.
Skippy.
It was actually where I got started in broadcasting, was that little car. Although, to be fair, once you've covered a whole season, let me tell you, races actually start to get a little bit predictable after a while. You sort of know roughly how it's going to go.
Yeah, as somebody who has covered 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10 seasons of a Formula V league, yeah. Love the Vs, but it gets to the point after a while where you kind of know how it's going to go, and the photo finishes don't stick out as much as they used to, because you know what's going to come down, you know what's going to happen. We still love the Vs, we still love the Skippies. You know, another car that we covered not too long ago here on Maconi, the Kia. The Kia, I think, could be made into a plushie, along with the Jetta, the only car on iRacing that has a not completely round steering wheel. It actually has very, very sharp corners on it that look like they would hurt if you ran your finger across your computer monitor.
It's interesting you bring up those two things. I want to say something very controversial. Very controversial among the Americans. The F in front-wheel drive stands for fun, so it's the correct place to put the axle in a car. And if we're going to go by that metric, what would front-wheel drive NASCAR look like? How do you think those things are going to get for a turn without scrubbing those fronts to bits? I would love to try it in a simulation setting. That would be... It would be a horror show, but I'd love to try it.
Okay, here we go. NASCAR executives, if you're listening, this is maybe news to some. Steve O'Donnell, the new president of NASCAR, because Jim France stepped down. If you're listening, good advice for the short tracks and for the road courses. Make the cars front-wheel drive to make the racing good. That'll be when the gearboxes get turned into pudding, because that's kind of what it goes with some front-wheel drive cars. That's going to be very compact in the front end, but I don't care. That'll be fun. That would be very, very intriguing. Front-wheel drive NASCAR next-gen Cup car. Can we call them the next gen now? Because they've been this gen now for 4 years. So
and yet
we'll still
that's
call
the
them the
brand
next gen.
name. And yet that's the brand name.
Yeah, but either way, I think front wheel drive, especially at Martinsville, man, heading out of those turns, that wall would be, that would be hit more times than the coffee table in my living room when I first started to learn how to walk.
I was thinking a little bit that there's a couple of tracks in the world that I think are overrated, yeah, very much overrated. So hear me out. Bathurst is okay, but I think it'd be better if we tore it down and we replaced it with a 2.6-mile high bank super speedway, and we can use restrictor plates to make the racing closer.
See, what I think they need to do for Martinsville is just make the banks completely 90 degrees. Then you don't have to worry about any sort of walls, because the track itself is the wall.
So a few things have been happening in the field, we promise. I usually do not let the broadcast go off the rails this much, but you try and make sense of this. Notice Bryson Hixenbar dropped all the way to the back, and has been slowly climbing through the lanes up to P7 now. Into a shot at getting good points out of this one. I think now he wanted to hang back early on in the run, could save some fuel back there, but I thought it was going to be struggle to move up 20-30 places in a single run, and actually he's done a pretty good job of it. He's now sort of in the place to make moves at the end. He's being pushed by Dyson. Leading that top row, Tyler Hunter. There's Wesley Napier. It's difficult to track these drivers sometimes. One going into pit lane. I think he's already a lap down though. Yeah, that's a Michael Mesnard already a lap down. Not sure actually what he's doing there, but because he's, I don't think. Actually, no, I was totally wrong about the stage lengths, wasn't I? Oh my gosh, no. Listen, I've been talking so much nonsense today that I've not been called out on this in specific, that a 40-lap stage is not the same as a 25-lap stage we've had to start this race whatsoever. You didn't even notice the, like, 4 times I said that?
I did not either. To be honest, I think somebody could fire a starter pistol directly to my ear and I probably wouldn't even hear it.
So, thanks to everybody. We might be needing pit stops. There's a chance. You can sort of get. I know in the next gen you can just about make this length. We'll obviously listen out for driver pit calls on the radios. We'll see how well they've been saving. They know their mileage way better than us.
And you know, for as long as I can remember, I've had memories, but that could add in a little dynamic as we get towards the end. I don't think these drivers have been, hey, too aggressive. And Brendan Hastings giving Adam Benefield something to have nightmares about, hang down that back straightaway. You know how I said that Benefield was predicting that he would get sent into the catch fence there? Well, it nearly happened.
Second time Benefield's had to save a difficult bump. I'm keeping an eye, though. I am keeping an eye on pit lane calls. Maybe there was a fuel requirement and he was already a lap down and took it. We're only going to find out soon once drivers start making those calls. Obviously, leading this pack is not going to be easy, and Benefield hasn't given up P1 for anything.
Yeah, we know the kind of driver that Adam Benefield is. I think the only time I've ever heard him be delightful in a P2 interview was at Bristol when he gave up that win to Jonathan Delaney. He's not going to settle for second. He wants to try and get a second win so far in this campaign. And we think back to how things went last year here in this series in the other 2 Talladega races. It's actually Lucas Hoitzman who was able to grab the other Talladega win in the spring, and then later on that year, Andrew Dyson was able to get the job done. When it comes to Benefield and the super speedways, it's not really the combination that I think of as like a match made in heaven. However, he has proved himself to be a good, formidable force every single race. Doesn't really matter what the track type is. The only thing I've ever really heard him beat himself up over is his road course skills, but he won the Roval last year, so still a very good driver. Of course, not going to be running at the Roval this year, so you can scratch that, but still, I think a very competitive driver. He's going to look to try and grab that win. You know that he wants it, but he just got sent back there. Wesley Napier actually pushing out to the front.
We have a wreck in the back, and that answers the field question forever and stops me from getting embarrassed. Near the back, I know Tanner Marty was involved. I don't think he was the actual cause of it. It'll be that car below the line, the 08, that starts a chain reaction.
And you know, Howie, I'm going to make the call. I think that's the first moderate one we have had so far tonight. Unfortunately, kind of similar shades to Alex Bowman having a kind of similar situation there. It was just, it wasn't a bad block. It was a bad bump there. And unfortunately, on the rejoin, yeah, that's any sort of rejoin heading into 3 and 4 at Talladega, even if it was Daytona, even if it was Atlanta, that's going to end in some kind of catastrophe. We all know that, and that's exactly what went down there. But you know, it's our first yellow for incident in quite a while. So now at the field, just crawling their way down the back straightaway. This adds in another dynamic to it quite a lot. Another round of pit stops to make sure that they are good to go on gas. And a quick little splash to the end.
And a bit of a shuffle in the order while that was happening. Or was this just going to the yellow? I do notice that Benefield has dropped back quite some time there. Must have given up these places. Let's catch it. There we go. Just hit that button enough times. So that top lane gets a really, really, really good run, and they're able to cover off. That's our Napier and Hixenbar, who instead of been climbing up well, actually has been very like silently like a ninja, climbing his way up to the top of this field. I mean, there's not too much nuance to the pits stops here. You either have the fuel or you don't. Do the drivers have the fuel? That's a binary choice. It's looking like a lot of the ones up front do now. The caution actually has helped them. They may not have had the fuel if they stayed green, I heard on the radio, but that caution has just about gotten them over.
Yeah, so a slight saving grace there, but with the ease of the fuel, they've got to worry about what's likely going to be a nightmare as we get towards the end of this race, Howie. These drivers have been very patient, very calm, quite tame with each other. It hasn't been the wild Talladega race that people usually expect here. Now, though, I think we're going to see a bit more of that Talladega that we all know and love. It's going to get wild. It's going to get kooky. First time that's ever been said here on Maconi Entertainment. I don't know why I'm all of a sudden referring to 19th century diction. But this is going to get nuts. I'm going to say it right now. These drivers have been smooth. They're maybe feeling a little bit antsy as we get towards the end. We've got some interested parties up towards the front, either looking for a good haul of points today or maybe to sneak their way into victory lane.
I'm going to provide a defense to that rejoin, a big defense to it, and that is if you're punted along like a hockey puck at 180 miles an hour on the flat part of the track, you know how the setup is configured. Yeah, those brakes don't really work or do anything because you're not expected to use them. I figure it's going to be very, very hard to keep it below the double yellow line at the angle he was at. I have a feeling like he was a bit of a snooker ball after that first contact. Like whatever happened, and he was a very limited ability to really change his fate. And it's just unfortunate that people are in the way and that the incident cascades from there. That's my defense of that.
Yeah, whenever you get a boot scoon boogie like that heading into one, it is truly a Jesus take the wheel moment. There's nothing at all that he can do in that. It is just run and hide, panic, try and keep it on the road. But again, there's only so much you can do with that big of a bump. It truly is in God's hands at that point. Not sure about you, Howie. There's not a lot of people that I would trust to take control of the motor vehicle that I was driving a few moments beforehand. Not even God.
There we are now going to get a true Talladega chase. It will be 9 to go when we cross the line and all gloves are going to come off. Wesley Napier from 35th on the grid is going to lead the field. Bryson Hixenbar has basically been in every single place this race. He's been all the way at the back and he's made his way slowly up to the top in such a subtle way that we didn't even notice. Adam Benefiel, he's the driver that's been pretty much dominant and on top throughout this race. He's been looking for a chance. Dyson has been solidly around the back half of the top 10. He's ended up in a good place to be here. Shout out to Aidan Amaro, driver we've not mentioned all race, has stuck his way up from 34th up to here. Brandon Hastings in P6 begins that bottom line in the third row. Anyone's game, and these are the sorts of moments we come to Talladega for ultimately.
Yeah, there's a good reason why this place sells out the tickets. It's because people are looking to see all hell break loose. Are we going to see all hell break loose, though, Howie? This is the question that is in my noggin right now. I said that we've got some very interesting competitors. Wesley Napier, who I believe just mentioned in the YouTube chat not too long ago, in a joke that we didn't drag him in for an interview. That's mainly because Kirk's out there on the racetrack. I had one driver once disconnect from a race because I dragged them in for an interview, and I don't really like dancing with the devil since then. But Wesley Napier apparently leading his first laps of this season If he can make this work, that would be a fantastic result for him. Ixenball looking for a trip into victory lane. Benefiel as well. Andrew Dyson, who won here in the fall, looking for a win as well as they head their way towards a restart zone for what could very well be the final time.
Like, we could have more cautions from here. We've not had the big one yet, but tensions are going to flare here at Talladega with 9 to go over the line. Bottom lane looking fast to begin with. Ixenball quite slow up there, being pushed by Andrew Dyson. The 81 of Brandon Hastings also in tow. Benefiel almost looked like he was ready to duck out a line quite early on there, but he sticks with it. He's basically tandem drafting Wesley Napier down the track. Gonna have to watch some engine temperatures pushing too hard this late into the race, but a lot of these drivers are pros and they know their stuff. Now Adam Benefiel moves. He wants P1 on the line. He knows when he's got a run he can convert. And is he going to stick with the 81 or is he going to duck on down when he's going to get a big shove from Hastings? Gonna let him make his call. Bit of a dodgy push there on Napier on the bottom. That's Noah Woods. He says he does. I said something like, I don't like it on the radio. These are the cars that are trickier to push through the corners. One more push from Hastings. Ixenball's in line as well, but Benefiel's getting some big benefits from this run.
Yeah, so right now that number 95 of Wesley Napier just falling out of favor to try and score the race win here, though. Who's going to be the first to dip out of that top side, though? My eye may be on the 32 of Aiden Amaro, a driver that we don't usually talk about running up towards the front here in the Friday Night Lights series. I think he is probably going to be the one to break away, think fortune favors the bold and dive down there to the bottom. The real question is, who will try and follow him? Will anybody try and follow him? These bumps are getting a little bit squirrely, and there's the point that I was worried about. Everybody stacking up as the drivers try and go for it. The 42 now stuck on the top side. The 32 gonna get hung out to dry there. I was worried about that taking place, and now it has. Unfortunately, Aiden Amaro gonna get bounced out of the field.
That's a lot of cars wide further back, and I think every single one here might be slowing down the field collectively. This bottom line has formed, though, with Woods and Napier. But all eyes are on the top right now, and all eyes are on when someone chooses to make the move and chooses to block, I think. Officially 6 to go. And we're yellow in the back, and that's a fairly big one. Car sideways. Oh, there's some wrecked cars. That's William Owens, who is absolutely in multiple pieces. Jacob Simpson is also meatballed. Been a major player in this race. Oh.
No, and unfortunately, at the end, it's all going to fall apart. And, huge hit there into the wall for the 30 of William Owens. And nothing that the 22 could have done there as that contact goes on in front. Look at that. There were 4 wide. Brian Von Henschel on the high side. And that was the contact with the 73 of Joseph McWhorter, pardon me. And there was a contact that just kicked it all off. It's those small little bits and bouts like that in the back of the pack that are going to lead to accidents like that taking place. 4-wide racing can be done here on paper. In practice, though, you are certainly asking for trouble. But now, Howie, it's fascinating to see this yellow. Is this going to send us into natural green-white checker territory? I think we may end up there. I don't think we'll have to touch the overtime yet.
I don't know if iRacing takes a lap away on super speedways, and if it does, it would be free to go. We'll find out on the other side. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. It's going to be an absurd Talladega dash to the finish as ever. 4 to go. That means it will be 2 to go when we cross the line to restart this race. It's the thing that both everybody at Talladega looks forward to and dreads at the same time, Ron. I mean, the fans are all for it. The drivers do like a bit of action, but at the same time, it's certainly scary when everybody puts it on the line and you wonder who's going to be the cork in the bottle.
You know, in what has been such a smooth race to this point, now that we find ourselves in green-white checkered territory, I wonder if those previous statements of praise are going to come back and bite us where the sun don't shine. I think it may. This is going to get a little bit nuts. These drivers keep it smooth even through now. I got to wonder whether they just decided to have a clean and collected Talladega race just to mess with us. It's Talladega, though. That red mist can descend very, very quickly.
I wouldn't call the race sunshine and rainbows. I would say that we've had a little bit of... But it's all been near the back. It's been mistakes near the back. It's often... Really, it's been exclusively checkups. It's been exclusively one driver runs slow and that affects the whole field and causes a small wreck at the back. It's true that we've not seen the red mist of crazy moves and decisions up near the front. And you know a field killer would give us some interesting interviews.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Well, it's very likely, it won't be like that sort of pain for you because the drivers that got wrecked won't be in the booth. But it's more like we'll be talking to 3 people and we're just like, I don't know how I got here. Hey! It's that kind of weird excitement out of them. Usually, your winner interview in a field race for a rep fest isn't a bitter one. It's a, whoa, how did that happen? sort of thing.
In some of those angry driver interviews, it makes me feel like I'm sitting in a vat of acid every single time I'm doing one of those.
I enjoy them on the occasion. That's my guilty pleasure. It's on the occasion. I enjoy seeing some raw emotion out of them. Sometimes
it's... Pope Alexander VI like watching horses have sex?
No.
Well, now you do. Coming to the restart, though, this is going to be fascinating. Natural overtime, natural green-white checkered territory here. Sorry,
Indeed.
I couldn't hold the straight face.
We have effectively unlimited attempts if we do need to cross over into the extension of the race. So we could be here all night, but as I was musing in the little break, it's very rare that you use all of them here at Talladega because once you kill the field, you've sort of killed the field. There's very few drivers left to really do it. So, and oftentimes the craziest moves come out with the white flag. I'd say our top 6 still in this with a chance. Benefield, Hastings, Hixenbar, Dyson, Napier, and Lowry, though. Make it up. Any predictions? I love to put people on the spot, much like I hate being put on the spot myself, but I have given you a data set to work with.
Yeah, I'm going to be rather abridged with this because I have my window open, but I want to give this a shot. Ah!
It's 3:30 a.m. That's the only reason I can't join you. Really?
Yeah. These drivers, they've been just caged animals to this point. Now that the cages are, starting to open up, what's going to happen? Who's going to get their head ripped off?
Let's just throw some meat into the cage. This is this is bear baiting. We're bear baiting on Maconi Entertainment here.
Some hot dogs in a taco shell.
Say it ain't so. We're watching above for this race restart. Benefield does choose to take the launch, and he's got a teammate behind him, Bryson Hixenbar. Top lane's had a worse launch, though. Mason Lowry's about a car's distance off the train. Hoytsma jumps in. Wants to give a push to Dyson, quite the big one. In fact, through the turn. Looking up on the back is Casey Graves in that orange car on the bottom. Benefield still firmly in control. There's no run yet. There's no space for Hixenbar to make a move. Third lane is starting to form up near the top. It's really only the one car, though. It's that 5, and he might be ducking back in. Sooner rather than later. Make it the white flag. We will finish the race with the next one. Has been remarkably tame race here at Talladega, but there's one more chance for these drivers to either impress us or let us down or do anything in between. It's a good run from Brandon Hastings. Still about half a car's gap here with Andrew Dyson. Dyson's going to give the biggest push he possibly can here, and it's going to give some good momentum to Hastings on the top side. A bad push though on Benefield. That's going to kill his momentum. Still keeps it together. You often like to bet on the top side here at the end of a long race like this. Hastings just about ahead by now. To the top goes Heitzma. It's pretty clearly going to be Brandon Hastings though. He ducks down to block. We're wrecking on further back. And Hastings wins it on the line. And we will take a look at that wreck in just a minute. We'll work out quite what happened. Of course we had to give us a little bit of that, but I do think that bad push to Benefield on the bottom sealed that race entirely.
Yeah, that was pretty much nothing to come back from, but Brandon Hastings, bravo to him. That is his first win here, I believe, in his entire time here in this series. What a drive there, able to get it there at the very end.
So we did have the big one. It just didn't make our day last any longer. Rows of 3 wide, everyone going for position. Where's the start? Oh, the 5 wobbles a bit, and he's pushed from behind by the 2. And that kicks all of that off.
Oh, and who was that just piling through all of it? They're able to part the Red Seas and end up seeing that checkered flag. There's the contact for Jesse. Oh my God, who was that? That was Cliff Mullins.
Ooh.
Oh, 35 piling in there, but Cliff Mullins turning that 44 car into a monster truck as he headed his way in there. What in the world kind of yoinky spelunky maneuver was this? How the hell did he do that?
Dump track driving. Who knew that in order to race well at Talladega? That's the sort of thing that you would get in Talladega nights, to be totally honest. On board.
There's a Leroy Jenkins moment right here. Golly!
It's all
How the hell? I didn't even know you could do that on iRacing. Oh!
It's all out of his hands, and that leads the win to Brandon Hastings on the line. At least we didn't need to make a split second, last second shot on that line. It was pretty clear. Andrew Dyson and Mason Lowry though jump Benefield to P2 and 3. Lucas Heitzma finishes fifth ahead of Bryson Hixenbar, Blake Kluart, Jarrett Godzicki, Wesley Napier, and Casey Graves.
And looking from there, Noah Woods ends up in 11th. Tyler W. Hunter in P12. Dave Heitzma is in lucky spot P13 in front of Jesse Winslow in 14th place. It's Joseph McWhorter finishing this race in P15 in front of Brendan Hunsinger in 16th. Kirk Mills is farewell for now behind the wheel. Will end up in 17th. Nice to see him actually run it through to the end. Devin Medeiros will be in 18th. Steve Benjamin will be in 19th. Bill Hull completes your first half of the pack.
There's Tim Phillips, Daniel Lawallen, Cliff Mullins, Drew Purwell, Tanner Marty, Hunter Trull, Daniel Wiles, Eric Wineland, Timothy Kick Jr., and Bryce Reiner. Might have a few retirements now.
Yeah, so from here, everybody again struck by a falling anvil. Seth Foudy, Michael Deach, Aiden Amaro, Michael Mesnard, Ryan Von Henschel, William Owens, Jacob Simpson, Dustin Hall, Cody Bird, Jonathan Delaney, and 2 more drivers left to go through at the tail end, those being Kyle Inman and Payson Lindsay, who actually pulled over to the side of the track. We noted that driver pulled into the apron, hang down the backstretch at the start of this race. Wasn't sure what the deal is. Turns out it was just a plain retirement from the race. A race that all in all was quite tame. Brandon Hastings, though, breaking through with a shocker of a victory, an underdog victory at that, for a driver that heading into this race was I'm not even sure where they were in championship points, but I know for a fact they're looking at an average finish of about 30th at this point in the campaign. So able to walk away from this race with a win, that is going to make that champagne taste all the sweeter. What a drive from Brandon Hastings. I looked into it. I believe 38th in championship points heading in here.
Because some drivers are struggling to make it into the infield care centre in good time. We're going to start from third and go up to first. So make that Mason Lowry, who started 18th to get up here and made it up to P3. Mason, how did that finish play out for you to be able to jump a few drivers at the very end?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I got to shout out all the Ace Moneymaker guys and Team Conti and everybody. We were really working together to try to get up to the front. Had a little accident that collected Dustin Hall and Cody on a big check out there. I felt pretty bad about that, but it's hard to do anything about that. But yeah, the finish was awesome. So happy for Hastings, man. Good guy, man. Love to see him win. And I saw Lucas at the end. He was trying to make a move, and I mean, we were all so committed to the team play, man. I was going with the team no matter what, and it just happened that I had a huge run, and it shot me out in third.
Over the course of that run, I mean, it's very interesting that you didn't really get to play green flag pit stops. The cautions fell right at the time. I'd say it was more peaceful than average race at Talladega, really.
Yeah, it really was. Only a handful of cautions, or even if that, and it was pretty peaceful, and everybody was respectful. And to get almost 40 guys out here with that few incidents says a lot about the quality of the league. So, shout out to everybody for keeping it clean all race.
You've given a few shout outs already, but do you have any more?
Yeah, I've given them all pretty much already. But yeah, Adam, Bryson, Dyson, and obviously Brandon Hastings for the huge win, and even Dustin Hall and Cody. Even though they didn't get to the end, Dustin helped us out and spotted for a while, so that's always helpful. So, and Kyle Ammon, he paints a lot of our cars, so I've got to shout him out. He got wrecked out too pretty early, but yeah, just love all the guys, and it was a good time.
P3 for Mason Lowry. Certainly quite a mixed up front to this pack, and we do have the others, so we'll leave you with Andrew Dyson.
And Andrew Dyson now joining us here in the booth. Not able to get back-to-back wins here at Talladega in this series. But Andrew, welcome in. Well done, the P2. Pretty competitive race in what was a very peaceful, I guess, morning for you. How was it out there?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would never, ever have expected someone to say to me, hey, man, you're going for back-to-back wins here at Talladega, and then to tell me I just missed out, like, of all the tracks, to nearly go back-to-back out. Pretty funny, but, I mean, I did not, I had no intentions of getting off the back of Brandon there. Just wanted to help him get to a W, or at least just, get him as good a finish as possible. So pretty happy with that. Pretty awesome to finish there, 1, 2, 3 with Adam as well. But, yeah, the middle part of the race there was pretty quiet, so it was a pretty serene morning, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, pretty nice way to get your Saturday up and rolling. Now, you're going to be running in the FLCC in about 24 hours time. So, switching out for much different cars, and maybe hoping for that race to be as peaceful as it was here tonight. Are you expecting that heading off into tomorrow's show?
I would think so for the most part. I mean, obviously, yeah, that's a totally different beast, that car, and some strange things can happen. But if it does go wrong, you end up with a philosophical view of it. But for the most part, I'm just there to have a good finish, or at least to stay in the race somewhat and have a good finish. Because for the most part, finishing is a good achievement here. So without damage, that is. So yeah, that's what I'll be aiming for.
Yeah, got a good result from it all, and just try and leave Daytona with most of your sanity and most of your race car left. I think that's a pretty good way to summarize it. Next time out, though, in this series, we're going to be swapping out Talladega for Texas. What are your thoughts heading there in a week's time here on Friday Night Lights?
Texas is one of my probably favorite tracks when it comes to all the ovals. I really like that one. So, yep, fingers crossed we can have, well, it's up to me to get out there and have good speed. had some pretty good speed for the most part this year, but not really able to get some results. So that's where my mind will be at once again. Just get out there and keep my nose clean. Hopefully, stay close enough somebody to the front and be in for a good finish at the end.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack next time out. But Andrew, before we let you go and celebrate this P2 run and get some practice in for FLCC in about 24 hours time, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Well, big shout out to Brandon, because I have either wrecked him directly or indirectly caused him to get wrecked or lose a lot of positions in quite a few races this year. So glad to be on his bumper as he crossed the line first. That's a big W. And of course, shout out to all the guys over at Team Conti Sim Performance for putting these cars together for us to get out here and do our thing. Oh, and I have to say, big thanks to everyone for the broadcast, the TV show, and everyone who puts on the league. So thanks to those guys too.
And thank you for the kind words. You may want to tune into a nice little papal fun fact shared right before that green-white checkered. I may get into a spot of bother for that, but it was certainly worth it. Andrew, thank you for joining us here in the booth, and we'll see you in about 24 hours' time back here at Talladega in the Cup cars.
All right, thank you, folks. I'll see you then. Maybe we get to chat if I'm lucky.
Yep, sounds good, Andrew. Good luck tomorrow.
See you.
And that was Andrew Dyson, our P2 finisher. Howie, I'll pass the mic back off to you to have a chat with who's going to be a very jubilant race winner of Brandon Hastings. Howie, the mic is yours.
Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might have been told this and might have misremembered it. Does that make it your first win in Talladega of all places?
Officially, yes. I did a preseason win, which kind of came very unexpectedly, but that is my first official win in this league, period. End of sentence, end of story.
Well, what was the strategy play in order to get there over the long run? Because it was a race with very few cautions, all things considered.
Was try and watch the finish, try and see the checkered flag. Really, is all it was. I think at the end of the day, the Team Conti cars kind of just had the same goal in mind, and if we ended up together, then we were gonna work for it. But I mean, for the most part, it was try and make it to the finish. And boy, did we do that.
Well, now you've got your win. You know, the whole challenge is going to be over your shoulders to try and make another happen at one point. Do you think that's possible, and where?
Man, I'm just here to have a good time. And, I'd say I'm trophy hunting, but I'm just, that's literally trophy number one in the 3 or 4 years that I've been in this league. So where would it happen? God, I don't know. Who knows? I didn't think I'd get one at Michigan in January, but I got one. So,
any other thank yous or shout outs for your first time on Victory Road?
All the Team Conti guys that I hang out with in the middle of the weeks that just make me better and make each other better, and mom and dad. They have no idea what the heck this is and what I'm doing, but I'd get yelled at for not even trying.
Well, always good to introduce someone up here for the first time, and a good win well earned here at Talladega.
Thank you. I'm going to try and I'll let you know when it settles down. It still hasn't.
That's our race winner, Brandon Hastings, and worth shouting out of our Dash for Cash drivers, Adam Benefiel took the cash on today's race, finishing P4 on the road. So, Ron, it was certainly a quieter day at Talladega. We tried to stay sane, and I don't know how well that really succeeded, but off to Texas next time around. It's certainly one of those classic intermediate tracks for these cars.
Yeah, no, Texas going to be a sense of normalcy in a way. It's just regular old intermediate racing. We're going back to that style of racing, and we're going to be in a run of quote-unquote normal racetracks. As we said, next time out, we're going to be seeing a plate race. We'll be at Atlanta it will be on July the 10th. So a lot of time before we head off to another plate race. We've got pretty intriguing stretch of the schedule for the month of May. Texas will get all up and rolling next Friday. Watkins Glen after that. Dover, Charlotte, and then Nashville, leading into the first off week of the year to get June up and rolling with Pocono on June the 12th. So we're getting into an odd stretch of the season, but I think we've had a lot of fun throughout this season, even throughout this race, Howie. But do want to give some love to Kirk for what it will be his final time out there on the racetrack there, able to get a good result. But no, Texas next time out, I think we're going to have a good time there.
We'll be back at Talladega next time around tomorrow, same starting time here on Maconi Entertainment for the full-length Cup Challenge. But from me, Howie Bowes and Ron Mons, we're wrapping up for tonight. Thank you very much for putting